coming up in this episode of Professional Jealousy.
There's a real joy for me in, a real grace in regulating your smallness. Like, why aren't you guys using any AI for your customer service? I was like, we will never, ever use AI for customer service, ever. It sounds a little cheesy sometimes, but honestly, like, I needed to rescue myself. I was a shell. If possible, I would say never take money from someone who didn't earn their own. Just having my senses completely on fire is, to me, the definition of success.
Hi, I'm Natasha Jakubowski, Chief Innovation Officer at Anomaly, a global marketing agency, and this is my podcast, Professional Jealousy, where I'm lucky enough to talk to founders, business leaders, and creatives that I'm impressed by, and yes, maybe a little jealous of. Today, I'm talking with Richard Christiansen, the founder of Flamingo Estate, a brand that I have admired and gifted to so many people. We'll be chatting about leaving rural Australia, starting Chandelier, an agency known for its fashion and luxury work, and most recently, of course, the creation of Flamingo Estate. Hi, Richard.
Hello. We're going all the way back to Australia. That's
I
okay.
mean, I don't know if we'll do much on Australia, but
Okay.
I think it's, as someone that's not from America, I'm
Yeah.
always curious. And, anyway, before we go there, for anyone that doesn't know the Flamingo Estate brand, can you give us the elevator pitch?
Well, Flamingo's my home, first and foremost. I live here, and it accidentally became a brand. And we started selling vegetable. My mom and dad are farmers in Australia, and so I know the grind of farming. And I spent my whole professional life in advertising, and as you said, at Chandelier. And then this is not a short. I guess this is not a short answer. But,
Not an elevator pitch.
not really. I mean, it's a collision of multiple things happening at once. I had started an office for my agency here in Los Angeles. I also had opened a bookshop because there's not a lot of bookstores in Los Angeles, good bookstores. And then I used to work the bookstore on the weekend, and I was there. And a farmer walked in who I knew because I had bought trees from her. Flamingo's a very large orchard and garden. And she said, there's this thing called COVID. It's just happening. I'm going to lose my farm because my vegetables go to all the farmers, to the restaurants, and the restaurants are about to close. And I was like, oh, nonsense. We can sell your veggies. And my mom and dad had lost their farm when I was a kid. So I was like, it was very personal to me. I was like, let's help her out. And short story is, one farm became 10, became 50, became 165 now, keeps growing. And from those farmers just kept pulling everything they were growing, and started selling vegetables out of my bookshop the very first Friday of COVID. And the next Friday we doubled that number, and the next Friday we doubled that number. And so we kind of stumbled across this wild vegetable business. And but I'd really cut my teeth on luxury brands, and my partner had too, and we made everything look beautiful and packaged it perfectly, and this thing just exploded. It just exploded, and then in the most wonderful way. The money was going back to the farms. We were meeting lots of incredible people at a time, for me, we can probably talk about this later, where I really needed that kind of wholesomeness and honesty. And then sort of maybe a year into it or 2 years into it, this wonderful guy Oliver came here, who had an olive farm. And he said, could you help me out? I hear you're helping farmers out. And I said, we have enough olive oil and we don't need any more. And then as he's leaving, I was like, actually, maybe we can make soap from your olive oil. And so today, and that kind of was a big turning point. Today, bath and body products, beauty products, soap, and soon fragrance is about 90% of what we do.
Amazing.
And the company has just, it's exploded financially in a way I could never have dreamed of, and in a distribution I could never have dreamed of in 5 years. And so, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But so anyway, short answer, we started making things in my home from farmers that we met, and stumbled into something really interesting, which I'm very, very proud of, actually.
It's amazing. I mean, Yeah, I love the idea of the accidental business that then grew. Like, what was the moment that you realized it went from kind of helping out the farmers and selling through COVID to actually this could be my own business, my own brand?
I just think the volume at which I built brands and rescue brands my whole life. I think the volume at which it- the wind hit the sails so quickly, and people. I think this kind of brand could never exist outside Los Angeles. I think because our adjacency to Hollywood was very important. People were gifting it. People who had a lot of following were sort of talking about it. There's a lot of goodwill here for us. We were
Yeah.
genuinely helping out hundreds of farmers, and um, one point in the vegetable part of the journey, although we still sell vegetables, but when we were just doing that, we had to rent out Universal Studios or somewhere like that because we needed a space large enough for all these trucks to come with their vegetables that was COVID safe, that was covered, that we could pick and pack vegetables on a Thursday to sell and deliver on a Friday. And that was such a full circle moment for me because I had filmed TV commercials in the backlots here,
Yeah.
and I'd done, other silly jobs for brands where we were creating fake narratives, and here we were picking out carrots. So it was wonderful. It was that first 2 years, let's say, under the protective bubble of COVID was just joyful for us.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the other point that I really felt like, oh, something's happened is we got a visit from this amazing entrepreneur and illustrator, Joe Horgan and her colleague Marita Berg. They really run this business in Australia called Mecca. If you're
Yeah.
Australian, everyone knows Mecca. It's like Sephora, but much better. Um, and the best retailer in Australia, I think. And big beauty business, huge in every city in the country. And they came here and they said, I think there's something interesting going on in the industry. We're seeing this collision of beauty, nutrition, wellness,
Yeah.
kind of sourcing acumen. No one can deliver on it because no one's making stuff that way. They're making stuff in a laboratory. They're using contract ingredients. They're not. Most beauty brands, as you know, don't even touch their products. That it's all outsourced. I said, you're one of the only people we can think of who can actually deliver on it because you're actually making stuff that way.
Yeah.
You're pulling food grade ingredients and you're making hand soap from it. And that really was sort of how this sort of SKU assortment started. I think we made 150 products in our first year, which is
Yeah.
it's insanity.
So
But people would come to the house and they'd say like, "Oh, I've got 7 acres of sage. What can you make from it?"
yeah.
And, "Oh, I've got 18 acres of lavender. What can you make with it?" And I would just be like, "Let's make shampoo. How hard can that be?" And we'd figure out a way to make shampoo. And so thank God we're not mixing in buckets anymore, but at its core, we're still doing the same thing, which
Yeah.
is from the business point of view,
Yeah.
um, really the opposite way most businesses work. Most people start like, I want to make a product. How do I do it? We were like, oh, we've
Yeah.
got all this stuff. What can we make from it? So it was the complete upside down way of approaching a brand. And it was super counterintuitive to what I had learned and done for other people.
Well, I
And
was going to ask about that. Like, what are the things that, Chandelier is so well known for its work in fashion and luxury? Like, what are the things that you did take on? Like, I'm assuming like the world building is something that obviously I can see from that work. And then the other stuff that you had to kind of reject because it wasn't right.
I think I've said this before to a lot of my colleagues and friends. I was at the helm of Chandelier for most of my adult life. I'm not there now. But for 20 years I was in New York. And anyone that works in the industry, as you know, like it's a service industry. You're hustling. You're always pitching. You're always running. And people would come to us, very big brands, very small brands, luxury brands, tech brands, and whether you were Apple or whether you were Hermès, whoever you were, in my full heart, I can tell you this: people came to us with different briefs, but they all had the same problem, and they all had the same secret question, which was, how do you help us act small?
Yeah.
Because I think they had all got in one way or another, too big to be funny, too safe to be vulnerable, too afraid to be humorous. They just were their size always started to get in the way. I swear we all have seen that in business.
Self-conscious.
They got too self-conscious, yeah, and they not be small. Were big businesses, but they needed to act small and act personal. And so, and I think for me, just seeing that again and again and again and again, and getting so frustrated when people wouldn't listen or take their medicine. You must have seen that too. Um, I thought if I ever started my own thing, if that ever happened, um, I would be just fiercely, fiercely, fiercely obsessed with acting small.
Yeah.
And and then that means like how you function in the office. It means how you function to, your customers, how you make products. Then so, and it's sort of something I'm continue to be obsessed with. I think it happens to people as well as businesses. I think when you start to get too big for your britches, you start to lose your magic. And so there's a real joy for me a real grace in regulating your smallness.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge, huge believer in it.
I thought it was interesting because you have said that you're gonna make this a
$1 billion.
billion-dollar brand. Like how do you scale while still staying small, not selling out, becoming self-conscious, becoming, you know,
Yeah.
letting go of all the things that make it so, you know,
I
so
mean, I think
desirable.
it's a time relevant question. We learned so much, and I think that, and we've also definitely grown up as a business. And we're across Australia. We enter Japan next week. We open there next week. We're across America. We've scaled quite quickly, and with that has come those complexities that I used to get annoyed at from other people. It really is a very true thing. I think but at its core, for me, the core team is quite small and very intimate. People joke, I still write all the social media copy. I write all the website copy. I write all of it. My partner Harvey designs all of it. We
Mhm.
will never acquiesce that to or delegate that to someone else. We only make stuff we use at home. And more and more and more, like really trying to make sure that the team stays like very close and personal. And it's interesting. We had a board meeting yesterday, and our investors were like, "Why aren't you guys using any AI for your customer service?" I was like, "We will never ever use AI for customer service ever." And so, that's like we're not outsourcing anything. We make our own stuff. We don't have a 3PL. We have we have our own warehouse where we ship stuff. We're trying really hard to hang on to all the pieces.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one thing. I think it's just a real um, attention to the small things, and
Yeah.
we're so fiercely eagle-eyed on it. It sounds silly and simple, but and maybe it is simple. It's also like complicated at the same time. But I think there's this with Flamingo. I really feel like there's this collision of something very old and very new breaking through at the same time. Making stuff the way grandma used to make it, like
Yeah.
whether it's food or whether that's stuff for your home, and trying to think about new ways to package it and sell it. And my mom and dad are farmers and horticulturalists and environmentalists, and um, I think I'd like to build Flamingo to be a billion-dollar brand. I'd say that a lot, and not because I'm a tech, not 'cause I'm a finance bro and I don't care about the exit, any of that stuff. It's because I really do want to turn around to Lauder and L'Oreal and those big
And show it can be
brands
done.
and like raise my big middle fingers and say, like, you can leave the world better than you found it. You don't need to use palm oil for everything. You can scale a brand, a luxury personal goods or beauty brand. You can make it at scale and do it the right way, because I don't think anyone has, and
Yeah.
unless it's marketing shit. And so, because I'm really determined that we fly that flag, and then and so when I said new ways, part of it was I feel like um, that industry, like the farming industry or the environmental green sort of
Yeah.
that stuff gets so earnest and so like Farmer Joe, and we we're not that, we're fussy and we design driven, and so I think it just to make people think about the environment a different
Yeah.
way. I think we have to show
Yeah.
it.
I love the way that you've kind of included a feeling of hedonism and sensuality, leaning
Yes.
into pleasure instead of the sustainability or farming.
Never talk
Yeah,
about and sustainability, we never talk about it.
yeah, yeah.
Never the tip of the spear. If you dug one level down and look at the efforts we go to with sourcing and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff, it's very, very complicated and it's very, very, very good. But the second we talk about it, people zone out. We
yeah,
see
yeah.
engagement, we
Versus
see
selling pleasure.
well, that was also a reaction to me leaving New York and working in a creative agency. You know, I left Chandelier just like absolutely exhausted and like drinking like a fish and totally overweight and out of alignment. And I was lonely and I didn't feel sexy. And I was in that office until 11 o'clock every night and 7 days a week working for some brands I didn't particularly respect. And I just was sort of, in the back of my head, like praying that one day someone would buy the agency or we would like, how do I pull the escape hatch? I just couldn't figure it out. And then, but I really subconsciously wanted it so bad. And then to get out, you so bad. And I didn't know how, because, it's complicated business and it's making money. And there's 100 people on payroll and like, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
how do I? And I was just sleepwithwalking through life and
And
very, very
in COVID.
productively sleeping through life.
Yeah,
And then COVID answered my prayers. COVID just like destroyed all of our clients'
yeah.
advertising, and the company just crumbled. And I got my,
Got your deliverance.
I did. It pushed me out, and so coming back to Los Angeles, being in my garden, just getting back in my body. I wanted to feel sexy. I wanted to have sex again. I wanted to eat well. I wanted to be in my garden with my dogs and my chickens and just like live and wake myself up.
Yeah,
And for me, that meant like just good food and long baths and hot showers and listening to good music. And so it was just really simple, fundamental human needs I had. And
yeah,
it was about pleasure. And I say those words a lot, like pleasure is a human right. And, I believe in radical pleasure because it's really
yeah.
hard to stand up for your own pleasure. And a lot of that is about like get off your screen and stop looking at your phone and smell things and eat things. Um, and it sounds a little cheesy sometimes, but honestly, like I needed to rescue myself. I was a shell. And so for making these things, I say often to the team, like the stuff we make is souvenirs of a happy life. Like I
Yeah,
really, 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 really wanted to create things that brought pleasure just to me.
yeah, yeah. I find it ironic. I'm literally probably sitting so close to where the Chandelier office is, in Soho. Uh,
Yeah.
sleep just
But
casually.
doing very well without me. I'm very annoyed, actually.
Yeah, no, but it's funny. I think it's you kind of tapped into,
Oh,
whether it's the feeling of disconnection or social media or the world is crazy, the lack of transparency and connections to nature. I feel like, so many people are feeling like they're sleepwalking a little through life.
no, I feel like it's more than that now. I feel like with Trump and what's going on now also, I
Yeah.
feel like there's this rumbling of an awakening of goodness in people. People want goodness. They want grace. They want happy. They want joy, and
Hmm.
in very complicated times. And I think my job is to sort of ring my silent bell very loud, like everyone, come get it. Come, just enjoy some basic human pleasure. And whether it's with my stuff or someone else's, I don't care. But we have to stand up for that, and then and it'll become a bit of a domino effect for everyone. We have to ring our silent bells, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And is it like, how do you think about, you don't do you talk about Flamingo Estate as a lifestyle brand or it's a brand of radical pleasure, or what would you
Yeah,
categorize it as?
kind of that. I mean, it depends where we are. Yes, let's say we're in wholesale speak. Yes, it's a lifestyle brand. For sure. Of course, it is, obviously. But the nice thing about it, and really for me, the continuing surprising thing about it, is that I spent my whole life, as many of your friends have done, making up stories for
Yeah.
brands, for creating brand books and creating these narratives and what's the purpose and who's all this stuff. And we were making things up. And the beautiful thing about what my day-to-day thing is, like, there's just too many stories that are real. We don't need to make up
Yeah.
anything. There's
Yeah,
the farmers, there's the property, there's the products, there's the the collaborations which have been so interesting, this stuff, this crazy adventure that has just been a real live,
Yeah.
thing that's been
Yeah. Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and a real. I get so annoyed with you know brands that are not. There's a difference between a brand and selling stuff, and as you know, and having a real brand. It's a very rare thing today to see a
Yeah.
real brand,
A
and
soul, some truths.
with some truth and real, like a real connection to a heritage and to an idea, as opposed to just like a group of people that sell things. And I think most of the I could this is a whole other podcast, but like this, the access to capital and the ability to copy and the ability to make things with contract manufacturers and to create businesses out of
Yeah.
nothing is easier than ever. Um, and that sort of like broken model, VC model of let's spend into
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
an audience and what's your exit and all that stuff, which doesn't interest me at all, is makes I think from a consumer's point of view, it can get very confusing about what's real and what's not. And I get very annoyed when I see, um, when I see, because I
Yeah.
know how people are doing things. It makes me
I
furious.
know. It's almost like, the acts, it just gets so easy that, you know, I feel like there's just so many kind of disposable brands that are
Yeah,
never meant to last more than, the trend cycle or,
yeah,
or won't last. I mean, I think what's interesting, so you have taken investment. What
we have. Yes.
uh and you mentioned your board meeting. I'm curious, like, how did you think about the investment kind of part
It-
and building your board? Like, how did you approach that? Because I'm assuming you needed a specific kind.
terribly, actually, in the beginning. I had never raised money,
Yeah,
and I'm not a money person, and I was really, I think, quite bad at it. I was very lucky in the beginning. I had some friends who gave me very good advice. They're like, I always wanted to give that to someone else to worry about, and they're like,
yeah,
no, like people bet on you. They're betting on you as a person. You got to sit there and you got to be the one to make the ask. And so I was. I think we had 162 presentations before anyone even sort of asked us for a second meeting.
wow,
Um, what was interesting, and also like consistently kept running out of money. The business was growing, and the business just kept doubling and doubling and doubling every year. Um, and we were just running out of money because we needed to buy, we needed to buy, say,
ingredients.
we needed to buy so many ingredients and hundreds of thousands of bottles and like hundreds of thousands of candle jars and that sort of stuff. And so, um, we just kept running out of cash. I triple mortgaged my house. I borrowed money from everyone. We just did everything we could. We rented the house out for photo shoots, for parties.
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
We'd go sleep in the goat shed for a night when people were in our home. We would do everything we could to get money. This is not that long ago. This is a few years back. And anyway, um, and a couple of things happened that, I think, sorry, before I tell you about the good stuff, I think the interesting thing about those meetings
Yeah,
was, um, a lot of finance bros were like, you're doing too many
margins.
margins. They're not wrong about margins, but also you're doing too many things. Are you a beauty brand? Are you a food brand? Are you what brand? We don't understand it. There's too much going on. It's not
Mhm.
clear. And I said, no, none of those things. We're an ingredient brand at the end of the day. And then everyone said kill all the food stuff. The margin on food is lower than beauty. We need you to be insert name here, Glossier. We need you to be Byredo. We need you to be Le
Yeah,
Labo, whatever the brand was. Like, who can we copy? And we were just steadfast that we're not copying anyone.
yeah,
And what's interesting now that like we've turned that cycle, we're profitable, we're well capitalized, we're like the business is really solid. It's interesting now that those people who were actually so aggressively critical in those years, um, were like, oh, wow, this is
yeah,
interesting. You're a dimensional brand with food and beauty. And I was like, oh, I
yeah.
didn't. You're the person that told
So
me to doing that.
multi-dimensional.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so, I was that period of years trying to raise money was harrowing, and it would keep me up at night. And anyone who's done it, I know they know how hard it is and how
yeah.
ill prepared most of us are for it.
Any
And
advice?
um, if possible, I would say never take money from someone who didn't earn their own. The best investors we've got are people who they themselves built their own businesses,
Yeah.
and they have such empathy for the grind, and they have such clear and useful feedback for the tough times because
Yeah.
they've done it themselves. So that's why I get very wary and bored with sort
Just
of
a
the
VC.
VC institutional type
Yeah. Yeah.
funds and all those people.
Who's on
Because
your
they're not.
board?
Oh, we have a lot of good people on our board. There's a oh my goodness, people that have different corners. There's a colleague of mine, a very close friend of mine, Sid, who's been with me from the start. Sid Mather. He's got a really sharp finance business mind. The retailer I told you about in Australia, Mecca,
Yeah.
they have a presence on the board, and they're just like retail geniuses.
Yeah.
There's a representative from the luxury goods family that we all know that I can't say in Europe who have a minority stake in the company now, and that's actually the very interesting thing is that they sort of they really they like us a lot. I like them a lot. They are a luxury brand conglomerate,
Yeah.
uh, and I like it that they're looking at us as a luxury brand. They're not looking at
Yeah.
us as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
common brand, or something like that. And I think they're very clear that let's put a hat on, and in 10 years' time, you're running through an airport in wherever, and you need to buy a beautiful gift for someone, and maybe
Yeah.
like, oh, it has a bottle of olive oil and a perfume and a soap and
Yeah.
a cat. It's not weird that it's got multi-categories. And it's interesting that our number one products are always multi-category sets
Yeah.
rather than
Interesting.
linear.
What is
Yeah.
out
Hmm?
of interest? What is your kind of top selling product?
If you it changes season to season because everything's seasonal with us,
Yeah.
but the tomato candle, um,
Yeah.
the much copied
Oh
tomato
my God.
that we
Like
couldn't.
such
Loewe,
a
Mrs. Myers, everyone up and
family
down, everyone's copied the candle.
family multinational luxury company definitely has a tomato candle under one of
Everyone
their
has a
brands.
tomato candle, but that one's still still a winner. And
Yeah.
then there's peppermint soap that
Yeah.
continues to sell
Amazing.
very well.
I love
Olive
that.
oil across the whole category, and
My
we
husband
launched three.
thinks,
Hmm?
sorry, my husband
Question.
always thinks I'm ridiculous that I actually bought a new square soap, dish for the
Oh,
Christmas.
we need to make a soap dish for those
You
big
need a
soaps.
soap dish. Well, I mean, like, what other, I mean, like, going into that luxury, I think it's interesting because you're creating a different kind of luxury brand that really has the opportunity to go into so many categories. You could go into, hospitality, presumably, like, the world is endless that you're building. I mean, like, what are your thoughts on where you go? Is it airports? Is it airport retail, or is it
Oh,
like
for
what
sure,
do you
one day
think
I'd love
of?
to go into airports. I think there's a difference between like where we go category-wise and where we
Yeah,
go in terms of how to reach us. I think
yeah,
we would obviously love to sell wherever, um, wherever the market feels right. I think gifting is a big part of our business. So of course,
mhm,
like airport retail will be lovely. If you think about those other brands that we're sort of starting to work sort of on eye level with, think about Byredo is a great example. Like
yeah,
or Aesop or La La, but brands I also respect a lot. You know, think about they're showing up beautifully in airports as well as in
yeah,
their own stores and as well as in different wholesale channels. So the way you find us, I think, will continue to grow and already has. But what we do is interesting to me because I don't agree that we could go anywhere. I think you look at some lessons and brands I loved learning about, like Smith and Holken was an iconic garden brand in
yeah,
America. I think the founders will tell you in their books that they from financial pressure from their investors actually started selling clothing in their stores because the margins were good, but they intuitively knew that people that love plants don't normally love clothes, and so
yeah,
that was sort of a place that was sort of the start of the end of that brand in many ways. And so I don't think we'll ever do apparel. We'll never do anything like that. We'd never go into those areas. Um, but I think if and we'll never go into like functional health,
yeah,
functional beauty. Like we're not going to promise you'll have less wrinkles. I'm excited to earn my wrinkles. But I think yeah, next year we launch fragrance in a proper way, which will
yeah,
be interesting. And and obviously there's still so much room for
yeah,
like
yeah,
pleasure through food, everything you smell and touch. I say and say again, like my definition today of a happy life, of success actually is living with all my senses fully engaged, of tasting as much as I can, as eating as much as I can, smelling as much as I can, just having my senses completely on fire is to me the definition of success. So as long as we can deliver stuff that does that for me and for anyone else, then I
Yeah.
think we're doing the right thing.
The definition of being alive. And I think this, I was wondering, as I was going back to look at your guide to becoming alive, um, this is where the Australia question comes in. And it's a very stupid question, probably, but I was thinking about, I love the idea of being alive, of your ripening as you age,
Oh, ripening, you
connecting
got that.
with
It's my
nature.
favorite word. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my God, so good.
yeah.
I'm surprised that I never saw the word fecund in your books. It's like, but like, there's just like, yeah, I think this is going to say, I don't know what this says about me, but I was just wondering if you think, like, I feel like I should be connecting with nature and like, always think about that and try blah, 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 but I don't feel it. And I think that's because I just grew up in the middle of London and it just isn't part of me. And I'm wondering if how much of this kind of dream and this kind of is a return to like your childhood. I know that sounds silly, but
No,
like,
just,
you
I mean,
grew up on the land, you grew up connected to something without TV and phones and
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
No, it's so interesting. We grew up on a big farm in the middle of nowhere, and I ran as fast as I could away from that. I left
Yeah.
home when I was 6, and I went to London when I was 17 or something, and so um, couldn't wait to get away from the dirt under my fingernails. And now, of course, like coming really full circle and realizing
Yeah,
what
yeah,
a
yeah.
joy and a privilege that was, and I crave it now again more than ever. So I think so. I think um, it's absolutely a return to that, and also I think as I said earlier, a push against years of working in an industry that I thought was increasingly sort of not real. And I think that the other thing that book that you mentioned, the Guide to Becoming Alive book, I wrote that book really because I was worried we were I had a bit of imposter syndrome. I was worried. We had just finished sort of financing stuff. I was worried that we were maybe a COVID success story, that maybe this was going to fall apart, that,
Mhm.
I just was, we built something so precious to me and I was so nervous that we'd lose it. And so I just wanted to ask my heroes, what, how, how do you stay happy? How do you keep it? People who'd built worlds in some
Yeah.
situations or
And
definitely
success.
stood for something. How do you, how did you, how do you police it? And so, and I think you'll find in that book, all those interviews, whether it's Martha Stewart or whether it was Jane Goodall or whether it was, I don't know, Jane Fonda or, any of the people in that I've spoke to there. I think the answer to that question in different ways for all of them was put your phone down. Just put your phone down. Plant a tree, cook a meal, go give someone a hug. It came up in every interview, in every chapter. They talk about living life through a small screen,
Yeah.
and I think there's something very simple and very powerful with those lessons. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of that book. It was fun. I've just finished a new book actually, which comes out in September. 3
Oh,
books actually. We've just written 3 books, but the first
amazing.
one's in September, and it's a wild, wild, wild book about sort of that idea, but I've taken it even further. Like, how do we shake ourselves from a mundane life?
Yeah.
And it's a great book. It was I started to think about victory gardens. Do you know what a victory garden is?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the war, World War One, first out of England, World
Yeah.
War One, everyone's like, grow your own food so that you can support the troops and we can send all the food there. And then in World War II, the Americans really ran with it as more of a sort of not very authentic, but sort of as a rally cry to get everyone around the war. It's like the garden meets war propaganda,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like grow your own veggies and like save the troops and well, victory through gardening. And millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans grew vegetable gardens. And so, but I started to think, like, if we had to do that today, what are we seeking victory from?
Yeah.
It's not Germany. It's not Japan. Is it AI? Is it our phones? Is
Yeah.
it our tensions? Is it
Is
is
it
it just like,
climate and Yeah.
All like, what is the
Against
what
us.
do we
Yeah.
need victory from right now? What do I need victory from?
Yeah.
And so really, this is a workbook for that. I'm very proud of it. It's a weird book. We'll see how
Yeah.
it does.
I love, I mean, it's interesting as both, it's like, you've got great connections, you've interviewed these people, you've talked about the Hollywood thing, you've got these books. Is that your marketing? Do you do any other marketing, or it's
Oh
mainly
my
around?
God. No, we do a lot. I mean, obviously, I love. It's such a pleasure for me to be able to do. I'm like a kid in a sandbox of all these fun tools at Lost. So
Yeah.
to be able to write all those books and to I think that maybe the other ways, like for me, like we are obsessed with. I know it sounds cheesy, but brand first. Like I'm obsessed with it. We kind of avoid the finance people and the growth team, and we never ask anyone their opinion. We're just like we're filming all the time, we're photographing all the time,
Yeah, yeah.
we're cooking things all the time. We're really like that forward. And so then, where can we find a conduit for that storytelling? And it's interesting that the books do well. The Substack is doing very well.
Yeah.
Where it's just like long form stuff. But what's the most interesting thing about all the marketing, I will say, is that having done this for a long time, the one thing that's working is the thing that I would never have told anyone to do. I started writing a Friday letter,
Mm.
an email to our customers, long form, not pretty, not
Yeah.
really selling anything. It kind of was like, it kind of was the opposite of every best practice. But I
Yeah.
just like we wanted to talk about the people we're working with, or who we're giving money to, or whatever the thing was. And that one email, which still happens every Friday, it has like a 56% open rate, which
Amazing.
anyone that knows email marketing knows
Yeah.
that like, you're lucky if you get like 0.1% open rate. So I'm excited that I think we've built a really, I don't know, like aware, like enthusiastic group of people who have supported us. I'm very, very grateful for their support. Um, very, very grateful. And then the other thing I do, this is a joke in the office. I call the top 50 customers every Sunday from that week, and I ask them how they are and what they're doing
That's
and what like.
amazing.
I've been doing it the whole time. I do it every weekend. It drives my boyfriend Harvey absolutely nuts because he knows he's going to lose me for the whole day. And I get into these like, long conversations. As soon as first I text them, and then when people realize it's not spam, it's not like
So,
AI
yeah, yeah.
spam. You're like, oh wow. And then we often
It's
I'll
the
call.
Richard bot calling you.
No, yeah, it's just here's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
son, call you, and then we've had the craziest conversations. We really like
That could
created
be a
these
book.
products.
That could be a book.
It could. I mean, I've been invited to weddings and funerals and christenings, and we've
Oh
gone to
my
people's
God.
houses for dinner, and so that's been a really a fun
That's
thing. And
amazing.
just get these great stories from people who are like. It's so interesting. Like, um, oh my God, I've got so many stories. It could be like someone who's saved up for 6 months to buy a peppermint soap at
Yeah.
$48,
Yeah.
or someone there was this one woman I called who bought 100 of the same
The
peppermint soap.
doorstops. I read about this. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the doorstops
Amazing.
is my favorite story. She bought
That's
100 to use as doorstops because she lived in Texas, and everyone in Texas has 100 doors. Um,
amazing.
so it was like just like funny, wonderful, like just good conversations. And you may have read I've written before. Um, I was checking into a conference a long time ago, not that long ago, and I was at the reception desk of the hotel, and there was an older man there next to me who was checking in. Obviously, like the CEO of a big company that was there. I don't know which one, and a gaggle of people fussing around him, and you could tell, like obviously, like an important guy. And then someone ran up to him and said, "Oh, I want you to meet Sally. Sally's going to be doing all of our social media." And Sally's like 19 and walks up to him, and I wanted to turn around and shake him really hard and say, like, why would you let the least experienced person in your company be in charge of the biggest doorway into what you're doing?
Well, yeah.
Like, you're the boss. You should be doing it. You should be at the reins of that, which is why I am. I will always be at the end of that. And just yeah, it makes no sense to me. Like, we got to be
Amazing.
close to what we do. We've got to be right there at eye level with everything we're doing.
Yeah. I'm curious about, like, you mentioned earlier, keeping stuff small, keeping yourself small. and you are very humble, but you are also growing into this visionary founder. Like, how do you think about that? Do you enjoy that?
Do I enjoy the attention of that?
Yeah, like, do you enjoy being that kind of, because it is, I it's interesting thinking you used to be like, I'm sure you were always on, like, selling Chandelier and, like, you must have been good at that front being a front man. Do you still like, and now you feel like a front man with a purpose
Yeah,
and
I think
being
I
able
wasn't in the
to
beginning. I was very shy in the beginning, and I think all those years of having to pitch at Chandelier just to pay
yeah,
payroll made me good at it by
yeah,
necessity. I became the quarterback in those pitches and all those meetings.
yeah,
Um, to a certain extent, I don't mind it now. I think when I was a kid, I used to like Richard Branson was one of my heroes when I was a kid, right? And so I remember reading in his book, like if you don't have a lot of money and you have to like make an impact, you got to get out there yourself and put your neck on the line yourself, and
yeah,
you got to just like put yourself in the firing line. And so I feel like I just I just knew that was the case, especially when we started this. We didn't have a lot, so I was always out there trying to like. Meet people and be and talk with some. I don't love like getting on camera and that sort of stuff, but I do it. I love going to stores and meeting people, and I'm forever meeting. We went to a store that was selling us the other day. We popped in to get a coffee at the store, and they had all of that stuff there. I ended up working on the floor of the store for a few hours, and Harvey was so angry. He's like, we can't go anywhere without you wanting to say hi to customers. And so, but I do love that. I love meeting people. I like just people knowing that there's a real, as I said in the beginning, that this is like a real living thing, and I know
yeah,
the names of all our farmers, and I know all the plants, and I know of that stuff, and it makes me so happy to do things that way, and I want to share that with people.
yeah. Part of the connection, keeping it real. Yeah, it's
Also,
amazing.
like I was last night I went to one of the agency's clients when I was there, and still now is Hermès, and one of the few brands I actually like, hand on my heart, like think does an exceptional job
Yeah.
in every capacity, and their client team and their PR team and their everything. And actually, for Christmas 2 years ago, Harvey bought me every single Hermes catalog that had ever been printed.
Oh my God.
And we opened up a case of wine and read every one between Christmas and New Year, and really got this sense of like there is a real rigor to creating a heritage brand and doing it like it's saying no is as important as saying yes to in those situations, and like
Mm.
not buckling your standards. And I think about there was this very pretentious Hermes catalog from the 80s where essentially the editor in chief of the catalog said in the front something like, "If we're too expensive for you, don't buy us. It's okay. Like, we are expensive because we take craftsmanship very seriously and we use the
Yeah.
best materials, and those things cost money." There was this real arrogance and a soft arrogance to it, which I thought really shook me out of my self-consciousness around the enormous amount of criticism we get around pricing
Right.
and how much our stuff costs. But it costs that much for
Quality.
it's not,
Yeah.
and it's not just like the marketing of it, like if you're
Yeah.
paying people who treat their soil well and pay their staff well and don't, cut corners, those raw ingredients that have to cost more. We need them to cost more. I think food in this country needs to get more expensive, not less expensive,
Yeah.
which is something that people get really angry when I say. But it's hard for a lot of farmers to like earn a living wage. And so
Yeah.
we've got to support them at that level, which means everything sort of has to start reflecting that. And so,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. The opposite, fast fashion, fast food, just getting back to, yeah.
yeah, we should also like, and this is for another episode, but we shouldn't be flying food across or flowers or produce across the world, and we should be buying locally, and we should be supporting local farms. And I think the one part of the business that is my favorite thing is that and this really was maybe my solution to an earlier question you asked, where you're like, how do you balance this need to like as you're scaling, how do you not
And
lose
yeah,
the
yeah.
fun of it?
So you source locally.
Yeah, well, not necessarily now farms are everywhere, but we have like, uh, you know, I think speed and is the killer of intimacy, and I think
Mhm.
often, like operations is the killer of intimacy, and I think we are a purveyor of intimacy in a way. And so, as things have had to scale, and we make a lot more stuff than we did. The like, let's try it, let's have fun, let's see what that stuff gets harder to do. And so we created this thing called our subscription box, which is, it used to just be this thing I used to send my mom every quarter, and it sort of was just a box of things I was excited for.
Yeah.
And then sort of maybe a year ago, actually, I interviewed David Leon in that book, who's an incredible regenerative farm leader. He's an amazing man. He started to talk to me about Hawaii, where he lives, and how the Hawaiian Islands have the best climate and the best soil, but like no one can survive as a farmer there. And a carton of milk costs $15 in Hawaii, and why does 90% of the food in Hawaii get imported when they have the most beautiful, infrastructure there to grow their own food? So we really started thinking, like, how do we maybe do a Flamingo Estate model in Hawaii where we get all the farmers together and we say, like, we're better together. Let's think about how you can raise your own margins and
Yeah.
you know. Anyway,
Hey, yeah.
so we did a box of a collection of products from Hawaii, and that was a small project for us. But what was interesting was that group of farmers did rally together, and they had meetings with the local supermarket chains, and they started working together, and it started this beautiful ripple effect of
Yeah. Amazing.
conversation around how can we transform farming in Hawaii. And
Yeah.
then so we really I got so happy with the response to that. We then went to Japan, to Okinawa, and then end of last year went to the Kingdom of Bhutan and the Himalayas. And so we've just been like going to these amazing places to find farmers who, like either we're in the highest mountains of the Himalayas, and picking flowers for a tea. This tea farm would never ever have the ability to sell that many tins of tea in America. So that sort of stuff gives me so much joy that we're still
Yeah.
able to do that and it's sort of, I really hoard that away. I hide it from everyone, and I don't let the operations team look at it, and I don't, I don't want to talk about the margin. This is my one thing.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. More of the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
Quick fire-ish. I'm going to start with something silly, which is you interviewed some amazing people, obviously, in your book. Anyone dead that you wish you could have interviewed or talked to?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yes. Laura Ashley. I think she's amazing. Walt Disney. I think they're both like good examples of people who had built worlds, guarded them fiercely, and had a very clear vision of a world that they wanted to live in. Yves Saint Laurent may be the same thing.
Yeah.
I like, Laura Ashley owned florals, and she had that very clear, and I think about that brand in its heyday. They were selling everything from paint to wallpaper to
I
dresses.
mean, I grew up in England. There was a lot of
Right? So like
it's
this dedication to a
still
lifestyle.
in Japan. I was there like a
Yeah.
few months ago, and Laura Ashley is still a thing.
Yeah, no, it still is. It's owned by a separate company in Japan. No, I know. I'm a big Laura Ashley fan. I have every catalog. But that world, and then in a different way, Walt Disney. I think
Yeah.
that this ability to just manifest to be able to manifest a clear vision and then execute it is such a
Yeah.
risk. And I want to learn as much as I can from those people who did it.
Oh my
and
God, yeah.
did it.
I might email it something. He had this kind of map of what he was thinking of for Walt Disney World before, and it's so complete and so amazing. It's kind of like the flywheel of everything working together. It's amazing. I'll email it to
Also,
you.
like, not without his struggles, ran out of money repeatedly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories of Walt Disney is that, and it's still there today, is like he ran out of money before he finished Disneyland, and in Tomorrowland, they couldn't afford any trees, so they just let all the weeds grow, and the weeds got really high, and they put the plant name next to it, so people thought they were really proper plants, but they were just weeds that
Amazing.
grew really tall.
Amazing. What do you think is your superpower that's helped you get, where you are today?
Oh, wow.
And maybe there's two, one that got you half of the way, and now the last 5 years. I don't know.
I think my softness, which is the thing I was always the most self-conscious about. I was a little soft kid and tried very hard not to be that as an adult. But I think now that I'm back and very comfortable in my skin now,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of soft-skinned people, as I am of soft-skinned fruit. This idea of if you bruise easily, it's a good thing, because you're really careful about how you treat other people and what you do in the world.
That's so interesting. All right, another stupid one. if you had to pick a fruit or a vegetable, what would you be and why?
Wow. It's such a good question. I've never
I don't
about
know about that.
what would I be? A fruit or a vegetable? Oh my God. A radicchio, maybe. A radicchio, Treviso radicchio. It comes out so rarely, but when it does, it's so colorful and it's a little bit bitter, but it's also delicious and everyone loves it. Maybe it's that. Yeah.
Okay. Best career advice, worst career advice you've ever had?
Um, Wake up early is probably the best. Wake up early. I don't think you can own a business unless you're an early riser. I'm a firm believer in that. Um, and then do it yourself. Do things in person. I said that before. Like you cannot. I don't delegate things to other people unless I know how to do it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about, I think somewhere you talked about Martha Stewart being a
Yes.
great example of that.
She was a great. I remember looking at her early in my career and knowing that she would never ask someone to do something that she hadn't done before, and whether that was like building a chimney or baking a pie. And she's very clear. And when you ask her about it, like she didn't know how to do so much of that stuff, but she just got herself in the game every day. And I think there's something really good about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, any belief about business that you've changed your mind on?
Um, I've come to love margins. um, I think. No, not really. I mean, I think there's a very different thing from having an idea and being able to scale an idea. I think
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate the value of those things and how different they were. Really, and requires different. And I think I also now know, which I didn't know before, that the people you need around you from 0 to 10 million are
Yeah.
different people you need from 10 to 100 million, and the very different skill sets. And the sad part about that is now that we're sort of in that second phase of that journey, that so much of the magic of a brand happens in the scrappy early days. And then it sort of becomes about scaling that magic. And I remember being in like the hell of hells early on when we had no money and I was asking everyone, but we were having fun making products. And I remember my good friend Michael, who founded Everlane,
Hmm.
he called me and he said, Richard, you're going to look back at this, and this is the moment that will be the
Yeah.
most fun. And
Yeah.
I laughed and I thought he was full of shit. And man, he was so right. Those early scrappy days are always the most fun. And so maybe part of my job is to infuse fun in that second part.
Yeah. Amazing. What, how do you think about success moving forward? What does success mean to you?
Well, like I said earlier, I still think it means just like operating with all my senses at full capacity. But in terms of business success, I've joked at the team that my real definition of success is going to be the day I can delete Instagram, for good. But no, for the business, I think I would. We're on track now to. I don't want to sound like a finance bro because I'm not, but we are on track. We'll cross over next year, like we'll get to 75 million in revenue. We'll be in Japan. We'll help out finally a beautiful flagship store where I'll be able to have a restaurant and like the
Amazing.
whole Flamingo world, which I'm so excited for.
Yeah.
And so I think I only say that not to like, to brag about a number or anything, but just to say like, it was a long, hard journey to get
Yeah.
the ship right. And so, I think being able to like open some stores and really like have a full world of the brand, and have the sort of financial ability to do that, it will be such a joy for me to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
work at a restaurant every single day. I can't wait. Uh,
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That makes so much sense. So I
where
can't.
where I get disappointed. Sorry, do we have time to talk about something that
Yeah.
annoys
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And tell me if we have to go. Um, the part of the industry that was a surprise that really continues to like irritate me immensely is hospitality industry,
Hmm.
um, in the sense that we've been asked by so many, not so many, but several hotel chains and things, and
Yeah.
airlines, like, can we do the amenities and the toiletries and that sort of stuff? Um, but then you find out the way that everyone does that is that they outsource it to another company who makes a bad
Yeah.
copy of the
A
product.
bad
It
copy, a cheaper
might smell
copy.
like a little bit of the same product, but it's
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
palm oil and it's just shitty formulas. And so it's really sad to me because I would love to take it to the dream of having a body wash or something that like at a scale like that to go into
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but this is it's when someone wants to pay 1 cent for a bottle of
yeah,
shampoo, it's impossible to make something the right way. And I think that's one thing, like if no one hears anything else that I said, I think the thing that keeps me awake, that I'm obsessed with, is we've got to like make things the right way. We have to stop like
yeah,
covering ourselves in chemicals that are killing the world, and so I just I get so fanatical about it. I get so annoyed when like I see big brands. A competitor of ours sold yesterday for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they make such shitty stuff. And it's all very good marketing. And I was just so irritated because I think about my garden, I think about the animals, and I
yeah,
think about the environment. I think about Jane Goodall, who's been my friend in
yeah,
here since
amazing.
small, and I'm just like, we have to do something about this planet. And
Yeah,
so
do better.
we have to. And sometimes people are like, oh, do you guys want to be Patagonia? I was like, maybe like maybe more Hermès than Patagonia, but maybe the two of them if they had a baby.
Yeah,
Um, because I think our job as business people is much more than just to make some money.
yeah.
So,
With that, I'm going to do the last question, which is, who are you professionally jealous of?
I just mentioned her name, Jane Goodall. I really am. And Jane, I met Jane years ago.
How did you meet her? Like, I know that you've met her and you've interviewed her, but like, how did you meet her through the marketing work?
No, I had a bit of a midlife crisis, and I did this crazy thing where you climb at Mount Everest and you trek to the North Pole and the South Pole.
Wow.
Why on earth I signed up for this stupidity, I don't know, but I did them. And actually, no, they were not stupidity. They were remarkable, like eye-opening experiences. But and I hadn't heard of Jane Goodall. And on my way, as I was leaving, Everest was the first thing. One of my colleagues put Jane Goodall's book in my backpack and said, "You should read this book." And I got into my sleeping bag every night. I was so cold and I was so scared actually on that trip, me being thin-skinned, and
An Australian.
thinking I was gonna fall off a mountain every day. And
Yeah.
and I just was like, if I get off this damn mountain, I'm gonna call her and I'm gonna work for her. And so I did. I got back down to Kathmandu and I called her, and I called her foundation and I said, I think what you're doing is amazing. And I have an advertising agency that just sells people stuff they don't need. Could you be our first pro bono client? And
Wow.
that's sort of how we started. And then I realized like Jane's her institute, her foundation employed 300 people, and they were out saving the world and campaigning for climate work. And I went to the Congo with her team to look at the chimps, and just
Oh,
like had the most beautiful experiences with them. And
amazing.
so, but also understood the reason why I said that about her being the sort of business leader I want is she very much has a business. It's a huge organization that's dedicated to real meaningful things. But anyone that had met her before she passed will tell you she had this remarkable grace and kindness to her, and she would say very few words, but when she said them, you would hang on every one of them, and just led, was a leader, but led through an unusual degree of just real grace. And
Yeah.
I love that energy, and I miss that, and I miss seeing more of that energy, especially like as we know what's going on, sort of in culture right now with everything and politics.
Yeah.
It's rare and wonderful when people set that example for others to follow, and that's why I love her.
Amazing.
And actually,
I
she was the one that said, she came here for lunch and she said, before we started, she said, why don't you take everything you learned, selling people shit they don't need, and do something good for the world? She was the one that said we should start a business.
amazing.
Yeah. Anyway.
Amazing. Gosh, I've taken up lots of your time. I'm so grateful. This has been wonderful, and I've been sitting here literally. I can smell the hang as I'm talking to you.
Which
If
one
it's
is it? Is it the menu?
I've got the jasmine.
Oh, the Jasmine Rose one. It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
There's a new
one.
stage one coming out, which is even better.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
I have
Uh,
I have an interesting story about the jasmine rose.
okay.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
know way over time. When in the hell of us trying to find financing, we went to LVMH in Paris and had multiple meetings. And we got to the final sort of meeting, and they wanted a sample of all of our products to get their noses to smell
Yeah.
the scents. And here we are in Paris, and I'm like in my gardening gear, and they had known me from my previous life. And so I walk into the building, and they're like, "Oh my God, what happened to you? You look like you just went through the desert." Because I'm wearing, what I've got on now. And like, what are you doing? And what are you doing here? And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this new thing." Anyway, this very this guy smelt everything, and he said, "I have advice for you. I think you need a sweet fragrance." And I said, I hate sweet fragrances. I like earthy fragrances. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, trust me, trust us.
Yeah.
When the economy starts to wobble, or
Yeah.
if it's an election year in America,
People
people
need
get
sweet things.
they get nervous, and their body craves sugar. And so their noses crave sweet fragrances, which is why the $1 billion fragrances all happen like in downturns and during like election
Oh my
cycles.
God.
And
That's
so it's an
crazy.
interesting insight. So I was like, I bet this is not true. So we did a jasmine rose fragrance, and there's a lot of jasmine growing here. And we didn't really put anything behind it. Never really talked about it because, to be honest, I never really liked it. And it has become the second most popular thing that we sell.
Yeah,
So
that's funny.
isn't
And
that
actually,
interesting?
someone gifted me this one. But yeah, like I feel like I'm constantly giving it as a gift. Anyway, I'm so grateful. I think we're gonna stop the recording. But if there's ever anything I can do to be
Oh,
useful,
that's so sweet. Thank you.
if you're
I'm
ever in New York, I would love to say hi.
trying very hard not to be in New York, but if
No,
I
I'm sure you're in your home of pleasure, gardens. I literally, it's funny, before when I was looking for an office space with Anomaly like years ago, I literally looked at the Chandelier space, but
I love that
you
space.
took it like uh probably like a week after we went to look at it. So it's funny.
Uh,
I feel like our worlds are kind of,
I spent so
I'm
much of my
still
life in that office.
sleepwalking, but
No, you're not sleepwalking. You're asking all the right questions.
um, but
Does
yeah.
Does Matt have your address?
Yes. And
Okay.
he actually sent me, I got some candles and I got stuff.
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
thank you.
I'll make
Yeah, it
coffee.
was amazing.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was fun. So fun.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna email you. Thank you again.
No, my pleasure.
Um,
Sorry if I rambled.
no, it's so interesting. And I do think, especially, that my podcast isn't super general interest, but everyone I've mentioned you to is like, oh my God.
Oh,
Like I
that's
feel
sweet.
like,
Oh,
yeah.
that's sweet. That's so sweet. So, and so not true. But anyhow, it's fine.